In this video, I will explain how to make a driveway step by step. From obtaining a permit to pouring concrete, I have gathered this experience over 5 years and 17 poured driveways. The first thing to start with when you want to build a driveway, whether it's a new home or a remodel, is to find out from your jurisdiction what the rules and requirements are for building driveways. Of course, there are standard codes, building codes, but each jurisdiction adds its own specific requirements. Once you carefully understand all the requirements, your designer or architect, or if you don't need a special design for obtaining a permit, you can sketch the design of your driveway by hand and submit the documents for a permit. There are jurisdictions where, for example, a private road does not require a permit for a driveway, but this also needs to be clarified. In the description, I will attach a step-by-step guide on how to make a driveway and a design option that I receive, for example, from Travis County, so that you can use it. And when you have obtained the permit or figured out you do not need a permit, you move on to the preparation. And to ensure that your driveway works well and your car feels good on it, you need to do everything right, step by step. The first thing that preparation starts with site preparation and grading. You need to remove all the soft, unstable soil that may sink in the future. Or for example, if you are changing driveways and need to remove the old driveway. Here on this driveway, where I am, we had a previously existing section made of asphalt, and we had to remove it to reach the firmer ground. You cannot pour a driveway over old elements because it will crack in the future. Those elements will move underneath it if you do not remove them. This poses significant risks, as water will seep in and it will deteriorate and become potentially hazardous. Here lies an artifact, a piece of old asphalt that we removed from the driveway of the previous owner. When we bought the land, there was an old small house and a small driveway. We had to remove this asphalt. After you have prepared and removed, excavated the soil, and removed all the old remnants, roots, guys, be sure to remove all roots from under the driveway. If you have trees and roots, there is always a risk of cracks. Let's now go over the dimensions. You have the driveway design. There are two approaches. First, you tie it to the gate plus 6 inches. This is what the rule tells us. You need to make a 6-inch overhang. The second is when you want to make the driveway a little wider or design it to fit a certain shape. For example, in this case, we tied it to the corner of the house, and you can see that our driveway ends precisely at the corner of the house on both sides. And we have a sufficiently wide driveway. If we have 16-foot gates here, plus we have 1.5 feet on this side and 1.5 feet on that side, making our driveway 19 feet wide, which is a wide driveway. Typically, a driveway is about 15 feet, and if the approach to your house is long enough, you don't need to make the driveway 20 or 18 feet. A minimum of 13 feet is sufficient, which will save you a lot of money on concrete. In this case, I chose and decided to make the driveway wider to match the width of the house and the garage. It looks nicer, and it allows for parking 2 cars in front of the garage. There are separate rules for the entrance. Generally, the jurisdiction's inspection, which will accept your driveway in the future, only considers the front part that lies within the city limits. How is it determined which part lies within the city limits? When you purchase a lot, you order a survey. This survey will show you the boundaries of the lot. In this case, we clearly have the boundaries of the lot defined by this wooden stake. And as a rule, the pink ribbons mark the corner of our lot. This means that the entire area from this corner towards the road is city territory. An inspection will be conducted in this area to assess how the driveway is made, to precisely delineate your territory. A marker made of cedar is carefully installed between your lot and the city territory of the driveway. It can be a metal marker, or it can be glass or plastic, any material that will last long within the concrete. On your part, you can use both mesh and reinforcement. It all depends on the slope of the driveway. If the slope of the driveway is very steep, it is undesirable and not recommended to lay the mesh. We will talk about how to calculate the slope of the driveway a little later in the video. In this case, we laid the reinforcement, only to significantly increase the value of this driveway for the client, making it more reliable. How to calculate the slope of your driveway? It's a very simple calculation system. You have the length. For example, the length of this driveway is 50 feet. We know that between the front point and the garage location, the drop is 2 feet. We take 2, the height, from the front point to the garage point, divide by the length of the driveway, 50 feet, and multiply by 100. And we will get 4%. This is the slope of the driveway in this project. Slopes up to 5% are considered normal for a driveway. More than 5% is already a steep driveway. If your driveway is 12–15%, that is the maximum point when it is relatively safe. More than 15% is considered a dangerous driveway. This means you will have problems in winter when you need to drive down. And most likely, even when you walk down the driveway, a 15% driveway is already considered steep. Building a driveway is one part of constructing a house. If you are interested in how to build an entire house from scratch, join our community of builders and our course. The link is in the description. A few small but important details about starting the driveway. You see, there is a radius here. This radius is, of course, made only from a purely design perspective. It can be made with cut edges or a more or less completely straight element. Any shape is allowed, or even, but the radius looks quite beautiful, allowing the car to enter smoothly. What should the radius be? This is important. The minimum allowable radius is 5 feet. That is, you can take 5 feet and create a curved line. This is quite easy to do. We use a plastic baseboard that is simply sold at Home Depot. A plastic baseboard is taken and it bends easily to the radius. Point I took after the first driveway. On the first driveway, I poured the entire corner. Guys, definitely cut the corner. If you don't cut the corner, I guarantee you that over time, cars will just break it and it will crack all over and you'll have to either remove it. It's better to cut the corner and leave about 4 to 5 inches of cut corner. It will look fine and it won't deteriorate in the future. One more small element. When you carefully connect the city road to the driveway, you need to cut the asphalt. Or cut the concrete if it is a concrete road. You see, we sawed the asphalt here so that the driveway fits perfectly and connects well with the road. We also raised the driveway a little by 1.5 inches. Otherwise, from the road, this is also related to the fact that the road has a radius shape, and water usually, when there is heavy rain, flows and starts to seep onto the driveway. If you raise your driveway by 1.5 inches, it will allow the water to flow past and not enter your driveway. It's a small detail, but it preserves your driveway. You need to direct the water from the beginning of your driveway to the end of your driveway. Surely there are some water flows when it rains. If you indeed have a sufficiently deep ditch in front of the driveway, then you need to install a drainage pipe here. It can be 12 inches, 14 inches, 15, or 16 inches. It all depends on the depth of the ditch and the requirements of the jurisdiction. There are jurisdictions that explicitly state in the requirements that if you have a deep ditch in front of and in, at the end of the driveway, they specify what size pipe you should install there. This pipe is cut at angles of about 45 degrees at the edges and is also poured into concrete on the right and left. This is done so that these edges last long, directing the water flow, and at the end, the water exits and spreads to the sides. In our case, we do not have a deep trench, so we did not need to install this pipe. And we simply created a trench naturally through which the water will flow. But it is quite easy to see this with the neighbors. With the neighbors, we can see this pipe. It is installed under the driveway. Why is this done? Because their ground level is indeed lower than the driveway, and accordingly, the water that flows on the ground must pass under the driveway inside this pipe. If in the future you simply want to install lighting for the house or lay irrigation on the other side of the driveway, just lay conduit. This is a simple gray pipe sold at Home Depot, costing $100. You will lay the conduit and you have a channel under the driveway where you can easily run any infrastructure in the future. Don't be lazy to do this. It will save you a lot of money. If there is no conduit and you want to cut in, you will have to cut the concrete, put in a wire or pipe, or again the same conduit, and then pour it back in place. Not only will it look bad, but it will also cost you about $1,000. What level of the driveway should be taken from the 0 point? Usually when you pour the foundation, and there is a garage part of the foundation, a special drop is made, which is a drop in the foundation level of 1.5 inches to 2 inches. They do it differently, 1.5 and 2 from the level of the main concrete that is in the garage. You see, we have a drop here. This drop is made so that when it rains and water comes in and the gates are closed, the water touches the lower part of the concrete, while the level of the garage is a little higher. Then everything will work perfectly. There won't be a bump when the car enters the garage. Water will not penetrate inside because the gates touch almost the outer part of the driveway. So we are getting ready for the pouring. You did the grading, you made the shape of the driveway, created the entrance part, put the cider for separation, and passed the inspection. You are ready to pour the driveway. An important element is to find a special crew of people who, after the driveway is poured, will properly finish the driveway. There are several types of finishing. It can be brush, treatment, salt treatment. You can sprinkle salt that will create certain pits. It can also be a smooth finish or a special crumb that is like small stones sprinkled. You need to choose the technology. You need to select a crew that will do this. These are special people with a specific skill. I had a case when we built the first house. I couldn't just find people at that time and I needed to pour. This driveway was on a slope, quite complicated. We did all the shaping and reinforcement. We installed the pipe, we passed the inspection, but I can't find a crew that can do this professionally. I decided to do it myself. I gathered people, bought the necessary tools, watched a bunch of videos. In the end, we did it. It was very hard. But then we redid the driveway because the whole driveway was full of sinks, bumps, and protrusions. It looked very ugly. I personally ground it down. I replastered and covered it with a new coating. I highly recommend guys find professionals. Also guys, when they are pouring the driveway, come and don't hesitate to pay attention to the fact that this crew, at the moment of pouring the driveway, I'm sure they will do it, they are professionals, but just pay attention to that. At the moment of pouring the driveway, they need to lift the reinforcement and detach it from the base material. Because if there are voids and concrete doesn't reach under the reinforcement, it will be a problem. The concrete should go at least 2 inches deep, and below the reinforcement, the height of the driveway should be 4.5 inches according to the rules. So, the reinforcement should be somewhere in the middle, which is why they usually place a small stone, or at the moment of pouring, they kind of toss the reinforcement up with special hooks so that it enters the middle part of the driveway. So so, we poured the driveway. I often get asked when we can drive on the driveway. I'll say this, on the first day, you can only walk on the driveway, but give it at least 3 to 5 days to settle, and after that, you can drive on it. What needs to be done when the driveway is poured? At this moment, you need to water it on the first day, especially in Texas, particularly if there is a lot of heat and dry weather. On the first day, you need to water the driveway all day. Why? Because concrete loves moisture. Concrete likes to absorb moisture. It needs a lot of water. If you don't water the driveway, it is likely to develop micro cracks. Therefore, on the first day in high heat, I recommend watering the concrete. After the driveway is indeed done, if your professionals didn't make cuts right at the moment of pouring the concrete, it's permissible. Cuts can be made during the pouring of the concrete using a special tool. If they didn't do it, and typically, usually 90% don't, but do it afterwards, they should make cuts in the driveway with a saw. The cut is made in the center, and then a horizontal cut needs to be made every 10-12 feet. After cutting the concrete and after you have watered it, once the concrete has set, you need to remove the form. And all the side parts of the driveway that have pits and cracks need to be patched. In 100% of driveways you encounter in your life, you will see micro cracks. This is normal. If you make cuts in the driveway, you will make these cracks slightly more controllable. They will appear anyway, so don't be upset. The main thing is that a credit card should not fit into that crack. If a credit card can slide in, you have some issues either with the base under the driveway or with the reinforcement, or water is washing out somewhere. Contact a specialist immediately. I want to focus on drainage systems. Look, every house has gutters and downspouts. Sometimes the downspout, which is the drain pipe that directs water down, comes onto the driveway. I strongly recommend that in this place, if this pipe comes onto the driveway, onto the concrete driveway, you install a water receiver and direct this pipe there. And with a flexible pipe, lead this water outside away from the driveway. Often this is not done. Often the drainage pipe, the downspout, is left with the water flow going directly onto the surface of the driveway. Why is this not recommended? Mold appears and you will see it. It looks unaesthetic, but the main issue is that it deteriorates. When you remove the form, you need to backfill. Here, you can use either soil with grass or gravel. I recommend making the junction between the driveway and the grass with gravel. Why? Because if the grass comes up to the driveway, in the summer the driveway heats up and the grass in that area at the junction will be scorched and dry. Therefore, it is better to have at least 1 foot of gravel that connects this grass with the driveway. This will also be a design element. You can install lighting on this gravel. It will look beautiful and the grass will last longer. The driveway will last a long time because gravel serves the function of drainage and acts as a spacer between the grass and the driveway. Tomorrow we will pour this driveway. The house that you can see through this QR code will be ready in 3 weeks. And usually the driveway is poured at the end, so that it is not damaged by workers during construction. If you want to see what this house will look like in 3 weeks, I invite you to a tour. I will personally guide you and explain every detail that we have implemented here to build this unique Red Fox house.